ladies, are we ready? I think we're live.
Yay! We're back.
We're back. Hi, everybody. I'm Corey Rogers. Our colleague Beth is muted.
Now I can talk. Okay,
Yay!
I'm Beth Swans. Another digital learning, and technology's hard, so.
You're in a judgment-free zone. We all have done it. Hi, I'm Lynn Kleinmeyer, and I'm another digital learning consultant. And we're back again to talk about Google Meet.
So we would
are
love
excited to be here.
Yeah, and we would love for you to introduce yourselves. In fact, Darcy already did that, so thanks, Darcy. She's like on it. She knows how these go now. But in the chat, if you could introduce yourself and let us know your role. Are you a parent? Are you a teacher, librarian, administrator? Who you are in the chat, it helps us to kind of know how to frame what we're going to talk about today.
And I would love to, because we are talking about Google Meet, I would love to know if there's anybody listening in the audience who is using Meet, or if you have any questions about Google Meet that we could maybe address or circle back and find answers for you.
We're excited. We're really excited to talk Google Meet. We've been digging in these last few days, and one of the things that we've discovered is our connections with the Google Meet is a little bit different than what you have in your schools, because we're not coming to you from a school with students. Instead, we're working with adults. And so some of the things that we have discovered that have seemed sort of like barriers for us, we're expecting them not to be barriers for you folks. And I'm having just a little technical difficulty. So for whatever reason, all of my Chrome tabs have closed. So I've lost my notes, and you just take it away, ladies.
I gotcha. For those of you who are not familiar with what Google Meet is a connection platform that allows you to have virtual conversations, the connections with your students. And eventually down the road, once you have established some of those connections with your students, it can eventually be leveraged to support instruction. One of the things that we really want to lay down as a foundational piece is the caveat of no matter what your connection platforms are, no matter how you are connecting with your students, one of the first things that you have to do is to kind of establish norms and allow yourself a little bit of grace in kind of getting to know the platform itself, and attending to your students' needs. And so, we're going to kind of talk a little bit through the platform for those of you who maybe aren't familiar, and talk a little bit about some of the things for you to be aware of, especially if you're using it the first couple times for your students. Anything to add to that, ladies?
No, I think you've got it, Lynn.
Good beginning.
Okay. I'm going to take over and share a little bit, just because we do want to make sure, if you're not familiar with Google Meet, kind of how this all works. And so we're going to take just a second to talk a little bit about how you can navigate your way to setting up that connection. And then also kind of giving you a quick tour of the platform itself. So give me just a moment to navigate and share my screen with you. All right. Ladies, are you seeing my calendar screen? Beth, can you give me a thumbs up if you're seeing my calendar screen? Because it is not showing.
Yes, we are. We're seeing your calendar.
Perfect.
It looks full.
Yeah, it is kind of full. Those little nuances of when you are also streaming to Facebook, things look a little bit different on one end. Okay, so a couple different ways that you can set up that connection with Google Meet. One way is just through your Google Calendar. I would recommend, if you are using this feature to set up your Meet, that you be really aware of who your guests will be. This is a great way to establish a Hangouts Meet, the Google Meet, for your colleagues. But this is one way that you can establish it and invite participants to join you. However, if you are using Google Meet with your students, another way to navigate to set up the Meet is meet.google.com. And one of the reasons that I recommend, if you are using Google Meet with students, to actually set up your connection through Google Meet itself is when you click on this join and start a meeting, you'll notice that there's a pop-up menu that asks you to enter a meeting code or a nickname. The benefit of the meeting code or the nickname is that it's actually this extra layer of security for connecting just within your domain. So it's great because if you are connecting with your students, this is that added level of security to ensure that only your students are going to be able to join you. The nickname is something that is only accessible to others who have your same Google domain address. If you are scheduling through Calendar, that is not a function that you have available. So that's why I recommend that. However, one of my new favorite features, if you joined us last week, you know that I am googly-eyed for Google Classroom. So there is a new integration within Google Classroom where you can establish your Meet link right there on the stream page for your students. The benefit of that is it's a one-stop shop for your kiddos, and it's also a nicknamed Google Meet. So it's that added level of security. For those of you who haven't seen that show up yet, I'm going to show you real quick how to set it up. If you are in your Google Classroom, so if you've navigated your way to classroom.google.com, and you are in one of your classrooms, up here in the right-hand corner, there's the settings cog. You click on it, and you scroll down just a little bit under this general category. There's this piece right here where you have to generate a Meet link. And that will then generate the link specific to your Google Classroom. And once again, this has already got the nickname feature built in, so it's just that added little bit of level of security. You can toggle it on and off to be visible for your students. So if you're not ready for them to go live yet, you can turn that off. But once I've set that up and established it, I can click Save. And now you will notice I have a Google Meet link right here. One of the other features that was kind of nice is that once you have established your Google link, if you need to reset it for any reason, if you have a question of security, you can reset it very easily and it will generate a new link for your Google Classroom. So just wanted to share that. I know when we've had conversations about other platforms, there has been some question on the security side of things. So once you've established your Google Meet,
Lynn, I think we need to mention one other way that you can get into Meet. Some people are lucky enough to have. Lynn and I are not, but Corey is a chosen one. It's slowly going to roll out also in your Gmail accounts. That's a rollout. So like it's not in mine, it's not in Lynn's, but Corey now has a Meet feature in her Gmail as well. So that's coming.
Yep, it floats on that left-hand side where all your labels are at, and right above all your Hangout chats. And so I was really excited to see it this morning. I assumed that Beth and Lynn had it, and they don't yet. So
no, we're not the special ones.
They'll get it soon. So
we're not as cool as Corey.
I know. Let us know in the chat. How are you kind of scheduling and starting Meet if you're using it? Or you could also chime in and let us know if you're one of the chosen ones like me that
there you go.
It's in Gmail.
As everybody's now checking their Gmail while listening. Once you've established and navigated your way to the Meet, obviously the next part is launching the connection. So when you are navigating either from Classroom or from Meet itself, you just have to simply click Join, and you are then in the meeting. So if you're not familiar with the navigation of the platform itself, just real quick, you'll notice I turned off the microphone right away before I even joined the meeting, just so that we didn't get any feedback from having both Zoom and Google Meet running at the same time. You'll also notice the middle button there is how you leave the call. Here, you can turn your camera on and off. So just some of those basic features that are kind of nice. One of the things that I would encourage you as you are using this with your students for the first time, definitely make sure that they know how to navigate those couple pieces, especially the microphone piece. as the creator of a Google Meet, you can control muting and unmuting participants. So just that side note on that. Another piece that I really appreciate about Google Meet is you can actually turn on live closed captioning. I have to say, because my microphone's turned off, it doesn't benefit me to turn it on right now. However, like I said, this is a wonderful accessibility feature that's built right into Meet. It will generate those closed captions right as you're going, which is a benefit for students. Another feature about presenting, right down here, if you click on Present Now, you can share your screen. It is a little bit different than other connection platforms in that it will not pop up your screen right away for your students. It actually, they have to click on it in order to see it. So just kind of being aware of that. And then there's a couple other options here down under the 3 dots where you can see how students can change their layout, going to full screen, those kinds of things are all features that are there. As well as up in the right-hand corner, this is where you see your participants. So if I click on it, I can see I'm the only person in this particular meeting right now. And the chat feature. So that's where you can send messages back and forth. It is only for those participating in the chat itself. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and quit screen sharing. And we're going to kind of talk a little bit, now that you've had kind of that crash course in the platform itself, just talking through some of the things that we really appreciate and some of those pieces that we'd really want you to be aware of if you're using Google Meet.
So Lynn, before we do that, we do have a question in the chat from Jennifer. I don't know the answer, so I'm hoping you and Beth do. So she asked, she heard that if you create the link in the Google Classroom platform, it will limit participants to access the link and it's only available when the teacher started the meeting. Do we know if that's true? Is that a thing?
So, well, that's one of the things that we were exploring yesterday, and what we learned is that there's a settings in the admin at your district have to turn some settings, which is to create a group where students are not part of the same group as the teacher. The way that our settings are, and the way we're accessing our Googly world, we don't have a group of people set up as students. So right now, if you're in our Google Classroom, we create a link, it's open to the world because that's how our administrators have set it up. In your districts, what we would recommend is that you test it, that you invite some other teachers from your district to join your class and then test it. Make sure that it really does limit the access for students, because what we discovered is as a student, I could create my own chat and I could invite Lynn's Gmail account to that. So it was like wide open, but that's because of the way that's because we're all adults in our organization. So we strongly recommend that you test it before you use it with students.
Yeah, and as Beth said, in the Google Admin Council, your IT department or whoever has helped you set up your Google domain, they can go in and do some of those settings. And so a lot of the recommendations that we have seen in terms of the access that students have is limiting whether or not they can start or create their own Google Meets, whether or not they can record the Google Meet, and whether or not they can live stream. So those are some features that you have the ability, you being the IT department or whoever's managing the domain for the school, has the ability to turn on and off.
So there are links on our the information page for IT folks. If that has not been fixed, it's a very, very easy thing to do. So there's information on our one pager to kind of help you through that as well.
Yeah. And the other thing I was going to say is that Google Meet, much like other connectivity platforms, is quickly evolving to address some of the questions and security and the connectivity concerns that people have addressed. And so there are some features that have been amplified recently in terms of establishing, if you are the creator of the Google Meet as an educator, you have the ability, and only you have the ability, to turn off mics for people. You and only you have the ability to remove students from the meet. And so there's some of those evolving pieces. And my guess is Google's pretty good at evolving based upon the needs of their users. So
Okay,
Absolutely.
so we're just going to troubleshoot all day. So Darcy, now, thanks for everybody for being in the comments. We love it.
yay!
Darcy's saying she's trying to start a meeting, but it said it's been getting ready since we started talking. I wonder if it's a bandwidth issue since you're watching some live streaming on Facebook and then trying to also start one. It would just depend on the settings. Highly technical terms I have for you here, but Google's been kind of wonky, as has Zoom for us. And so I have found that it is really helpful to restart, which I know is not everybody's favorite thing to hear, but a clean restart sometimes is a great idea. I restarted my computer before we went on Facebook Live to make sure that I was starting with a clean slate so that there aren't any problems. So what I would encourage you to do, though, if you continue to have problems, is reach out to someone with your IT, because again, there could be something going on in your admin console. And so you'll want to reach out to the people in your district that handle that to make sure there isn't an issue on the back end.
So some of the other things that we talked about that we are liking a lot about Google Meet is that it's like it just lives where we all live. Instead of having another login to remember, instead of having another site to go to, it's just sort of all integrated, which makes it a lot easier for kind of for everybody. One of the things that I have not been as in love with, the chat feature, it's not saved. So when you end your Google Meet, the chat is gone. Now, the chat is available it's not private. So like in Zoom, where you can choose people to send a chat to, you don't have that option in Google Meet. It's for everybody, but there's not any kind of a record. So once the Meet time is gone, so is the chat, which I kind of wish there'd be sort of a documentation of that. I think it could be helpful in some instances. One of the other things that we talked about is that it's really important to help students know sort of the procedures. How do you get this going and how do you do things? As Lynn said, if you share your screen as a teacher, it doesn't automatically appear for students. They actually have to click in that right-hand corner and find the window that has the screen share. So some of those kinds of practice would be really important to walk students through, which is another reason I would recommend. I am a huge proponent in being guinea pigs with your staff. So creating some teacher friends, work through the problems together so that you feel more comfortable and confident when you have students in front of you.
Okay, I'm going to jump in with more questions. Are we ready for that? So
Absolutely.
Christine asked, once students are removed, are they able to get back in?
That's a great question. So if it's a nicknamed classroom, the teacher has the ability to make that choice of whether or not they allow somebody in. So that's kind of nice. That's another advantage of using or creating the Meet connection either through, meet.google.com or through your Google Classroom, because it allows you a little bit of that moderation to be able to determine whether or not people can rejoin. Another piece of information that has been shared in several different resources, I know Beth referenced, we have kind of a one-pager for you that kind of gives you some getting started tips, but also gives you some resources where you can learn a little bit more and kind of get into a little bit more of the nuance of facilitating with Google Meet. But one of the gentlemen, Eric Kurtz, gotta love Control Alt Achieve. He has done a fantastic job, and he has a lot of great recommendations. you as the creator of the Google Meet, as the educator, you can remove students. One of the things that they do recommend, there's this little gap window of time that if you end a meeting, kids could kind of circle back. So one of the things that they recommend, several experts and Eric, is actually making sure that you're the last one to leave your meeting. And if there's kiddos who are kind of hovering, go ahead and remove them. And so that's real simple to do. You click on the person's picture, and then it will pop up and you have this little minus sign where you can remove them. So just those little navigation nuance kinds of things just to help make sure that you feel a little bit more comfortable.
Okay, so Sarah asked, she said she's been using Teams and will Google Meet be able to show more than 4 participants? So the good news is yes, there's an Engadget article our colleague Jonathan shared with our team that I will make sure we put in the show notes for you too, but I don't want things to crash while I search. So I will get that for you. It'll be on YouTube and we'll get it into the comments to responding to when we're done. But it's coming, but it's kind of like the Meet in my Gmail, but Google has said they're working on it, correct? And the other thing that Jennifer already put in the chat, because you
Yes.
guys are amazing.
And in the meantime,
yeah, is that there is an extension, and Jennifer linked to it in her comment below, that will let you see more of your class. Because I would say that's a bummer for us, is I think especially since we're also used to using proximity and reading the room with body language and facial expressions, when you only see 4 kids in Meet, that's kind of a bummer. So there's a temporary workaround, and we know there's a long-term solution coming soon.
and let's be real, the kids want to see each other too. So it is great that, once again, it's just speaks to the fact that Google is constantly evolving for its end users, and that was something that they had heard was a need or was something deeply desired, and so they have come in with an answer. But as our experts in the chat, thank you guys so much for sharing those things, has already said, yeah, there is an extension that you can add that allows for that grid view.
One of the other things that I was going to mention is I was reading about the whole nickname process, and there's a recommendation that schools kind of think about a naming convention just like you do for other things, because if 2 people have the very same name, it can cause issues. You can use the same name again and again and again for your chat, for your Meet. But if Lynn and I happen to have the same last name and we both name our chat the same, if Miller, let's just say we have several Millers in our school and both of them are Miller, then you're going to have problems with that. So if there's something, if it's last name and the name of your class or something, it's a good idea to sort of talk that through and figure that out. There's also, I just feel like all of a sudden, there's lots and lots and lots of resources coming out about Google Meet as it continues to sort of rise to the top. So, for example, we saw one PDF somebody had of suggestions for what students can do to get a teacher's attention if they're muted, and hand signals, all kinds of, there's lots of things out there. So we are not the keepers of all that information, but we could help you find that information if it is something that you're looking for. Reach out to us or to your IT folks, and they can help you with that information as well.
So there was another question.
Good.
Yay!
Question Ferry is back. So Sarah asked, going back to the grid view extension, if we knew how many it would show in the grid view, and I don't know that. I didn't know if you ladies do.
I don't know, but we can certainly find out for you and reply in the chat with our answer.
Yes, we will find out. I don't know.
Because you can have, like Google Meet allows a lot of people in a Meet. So I don't know. Good question.
Another piece, I just want to reiterate this again, when we think about establishing this connection for our learners, and really, we talk a lot about being very aware of the social emotional needs right now of connecting with students. one of the pieces I really do appreciate about Google Meet is, once again, I'm going to mention that closed caption, the live closed captioning piece. I really think it may not be perfect, but it's another support built in to really help scaffold for your most vulnerable students. If you've got a kiddo who has a hearing impairment, you want them to be able to participate and be part of the connection. That's another big win for me in the Google Meet column. So I just wanted to reiterate that one because I think it's pretty important.
The other thing that we talked about a lot as the three of us were planning for today, we talked a lot about reminding ourselves of the purpose of using Google Meet. It's really a place to collaborate and opening up ways for students to talk to one another as well as to their teacher, but also the need for norms. What do we all expect in that space, and reminding ourselves that over and over. Lynn put together a really nice document with a lot of information about teaching online and think about the different steps as you walk through that process. And that also is going to be linked. We have that to share as well. So it's a sort of a deeper dive into online learning space and some of the considerations that are really important in this online kind of atmosphere, I guess. So shout out to Lynn for that work.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, and I think it aligns nicely because for those of you who have joined us previously, the digital learning team, we put together a continuous learning plan that was trying to kind of be very aware of entry points for different teachers in different districts. And as we kind of established this continuous learning plan, we developed several different phases. That this is an evolution, and giving yourself that permission to kind of start at the beginning. If Google Meet is something that your school district is going to be using, giving yourself some grace to kind of get familiar yourself, and then slowly thinking about how are you going to roll it out to your students and scaffold them and their learning experiences, and establishing norms, and give yourself some time to really develop that before you jump in then to that idea of content delivery, because there is great potential with Google Meet to deliver content and to create some interactive moments for students, but give yourself the grace to slowly build yourself there, and kind of be aware of not fast forwarding too quickly. But we definitely know that there are some of you out there who are using Meet and maybe have been for a little while. And so if you're ready for that next phase of kind of thinking, okay, so how do I actually leverage this for that content delivery? We have that resource for you too.
And our colleague, Kelly Robertson, dropped the link to the resource Beth was talking about with tools for students to communicate with you. And those are resources from Autism Level Up. So
Fabulous.
Thank you, Kelly, for getting that in there. She's quicker than I was at finding that link. So thank you. We don't have any other questions right now. Other than Darcy got hers to work finally. Hooray!
Yay! Good job, Darcy.
And Darcy.
We all celebrate when the Googles work.
Yes. Darcy asked about getting that grid view. So I referred you back to Jennifer's comment with the extension, and we'll get the link in there for you when we're done as well.
And that's also on the one pager too, that there's some resources. Once again, Eric Kurtz, we have his playlist in there, and he's developed a series of very short videos that he walks you through the tutorials for those things, plus some of the Google support centers. Yeah.
Highly recommend his. They're very short and to the point and specific. I just need this information, and he's got it. It's very helpful.
Yes.
Okay. Any other nuggets we want to drop before we're done, ladies?
I think other than tomorrow, we've got another webinar coming. It's at 9:30 tomorrow morning, and it's all about YouTube. So if you are looking to create your own YouTube channel, if you want to become a YouTube star, probably is not for you necessarily. This is just the beginning part, but we would cheer you on if you want to become a YouTube star. So woohoo, go with that.
And I dropped in links to our digital learning team's webpage. We have a page now, I think it's called COVID-19, that has links to all the different resources and the tools we've been putting together. I linked our continuous learning plan that helps you kind of think through What are the first steps, like Lynn and Beth were saying, like start with, let's get a home base, let's take care of kids. Google Meet helps you to do that. And then if you are interested in this, we're calling it online outreach, but if you want to see a schedule ahead of time of when we're doing these Facebook Lives, that's the link that you would look for.
I would also say if there's something that you're really wanting more information,
Yeah.
we also continue to build these as we go. So, if there's a tool or there's a process that you would like more information about, feel free to reach out to us about that as well.
Yeah, please do. If you don't know us directly in our emails, our contact information is under the contact page on our website. Imagine that. We try to make it easy. So we're getting lots of thank yous in the comments. So thank you for joining us. We appreciate you taking time out of your busy days and schedules to learn with us and be live with us.
Yeah, thank you so much for your questions. They were awesome, and your suggestions.
Yeah, enjoy the Googles, and congratulations to anybody that has Meet in your Gmail. You have arrived, right?
Awesome. All right, bye everybody. Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye.